Teen athletes and parents of teen athletes, you might be surprised to learn in this video that the fueling needs of teenagers is sometimes more than an adult. I'm Lindsey Elizabeth Cortez, registered dietitian, sports dietitian, and female athlete nutrition specialist. I also really specialize in the athlete fueling needs of high school and college athletes because that's when so many of us are really dedicated to our sport. And maybe we continue sports after college in our own way, local 5Ks, CrossFit. We find sports to stay active in. I know I do, but it's totally different level as a 35-year-old mom of two, and my reasons for sports and fitness now are very different than they were when I was a D1 track and field athlete in college, or when I was in high school and I was doing actually like multiple sports. And it was also so much of my identity. It still is now, but it's a different level, right? And so this video, I want to talk about some of the fueling priorities because so much of the nutrition information that exists online in books is all for adults, which is also where we get a lot of our research and our actual research studies from, are done in a population that's over age 18. What about the population that's under age 18 and frankly still 18, 19? We're still teenagers. There's still a lot of growth and development going on. And this is why nutrition for teens and teen athletes is so important because they are growing and developing. Your nutrition needs, I love sharing this just as a little wow factor. The most rapid time period in somebody's life for growth, most rapid period of growth, is between the ages of 0 to 2 years old. That's pretty obvious. You go from being this little tiny baby and then you're a walking, talking, you triple your birth weight within a year. You grow and develop so much in those first 2 years of life. So understood how important that time period of life is. But then come your teenage years, this is actually the second most rapid time of growth and development. We are growing in height. We are growing bone. We are growing bone mineral content and density. We are growing out. We are putting on fat. We're also putting on muscle. We are growing our brains. Everything is growing and developing. We are developing hormones. This is huge, puberty. And so this time period of life is so key. Nutrition is impacting your growth and development into the adult that you're supposed to, be. And now you add on top of that the layer that you are pushing yourself physically, not just general exercise and wellness, but so many high school athletes and teen athletes of today are really getting very serious, spending lots of time in their sport. I know when I was a high school athlete, I was spending 15 hours a week in sport, and then it bumped up in college. That was a part-time job. And I honestly think that some athletes, high school and teenage athletes of today, are doing way more than I was back in my day. So this is putting a whole new stress on your body. You need nutrition to grow and develop. You also need it to perform and to make sure that your sport needs, your nutrition for sport is not taking away from the growth and development. So I've got an article on my blog, lots of resources I can give to you, but this video today, we're just going to talk about five topics that I really want to hit on very quickly. First is the importance of calories, because I just mentioned how much growth and development is going on. Teenagers can go through experience puberty throughout years. It can take 3 to 4 years to really reach the end of the puberty experience. So this is a process. And throughout this process, we can have many growth spurts that can add on your need for calories by up to 500 calories a day during a growth spurt. The problem is you don't know when that growth spurt is coming. You don't know that it's happened until after it's happened. And this is why dieting, one of the reasons why dieting and reducing calories during teenage years can be so harmful, because it can limit the growth and development that is needed. We want to make sure that our teen athletes are getting ample calories. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that they're not skipping any meals and that they are eating full, complete meals, because that's another common habit of teens and teen athletes is to skip breakfast or not have school lunch, right? We need to make sure that we are getting enough calories in to support these growth spurts and the entirety of the process of puberty and growth and development through these teenage years. Within those calories, our macronutrients are, of course, important. We need ample carbohydrates, we need ample fats, but I do want to bring focus to my second point today, which is protein. Because of the growth and development of the muscle of the bone, proteins are what help build. So, protein is important for everybody, and especially for athletes to recover and repair muscle. So, we have various sports nutrition guidelines to suggest anywhere between 1 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is needed for adult athletes. Strength and power athletes are recommended 1.6 to 2. Endurance athletes, maybe around 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Well, guess what? Teen athletes need just as much, in fact, on the higher end. 1.6 up to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. This is actually recommended just for all teenagers, never mind if they're in sport or not. So that goes to show how much protein we really need, teenagers really need to grow and develop just as much as an adult athlete, actually on the upper end. I would say they might technically need just as much, if not a little bit more than some fully grown adult athletes. So remember that how important protein is, and that just because a teenager is younger or smaller doesn't inherently mean that all their needs are less as well. Here's 2 other examples of just because teens are younger or smaller doesn't mean that they need less, and that is calcium. The calcium requirements are at an all-time high during teenage years, 1,300 milligrams a day, compared to other stages of life, and as an adult, you only need 1,000 milligrams. We need 1,300 milligrams a day. Back in my day, there was a big push from the dairy industry saying drink 3 glasses of milk a day. Well, guess what? Even 3 glasses of milk doesn't reach that requirement. 3 glasses of milk are about 900 milligrams of calcium. You need 1,300 milligrams of calcium a day as a teenager. Look, there's more sources than just milk. If you can't digest that or have a preference for other foods, that's totally okay. But it just goes to show how darn important calcium is for your bones and the strengthening and development of your bones. Up to 90% of your bone mineral content should be fully formed by age 18 or by the end of puberty. So we need a lot of calcium to do that. And the next example of where your needs as a teenager are just as high as an adult athlete is with iron. So when you're a kid, you just need 8 milligrams of iron a day. And once a female athlete is going through puberty and starting their menstruation, not just that, but also the extra demands on your red blood cells to deliver oxygen to new growing muscle and just to keep up with the demands of the increased energy output, your needs increase gradually over the years through development from 8 milligrams to 50 milligrams and then right up to 18 milligrams per day as a teen female athlete. And I would suggest that even if a female athlete hasn't hit menstruation yet, that she begin working on increasing her iron intake because it's still helping with the growth process. And then, of course, when we start menstruating and losing some iron, we want to make sure that we're getting enough of that to replenish what might be lost during menstruation. So total calories, protein, calcium, and iron are needs of a teenage athlete that are just as high, if not higher, than an adult athlete. The last thing I want to make a note of for teen athletes, for parents to be aware of, is the importance of their independence and autonomy around making food decisions during these years. So as a parent, you're going to be watching your teenager and seeing them make a food choice that you're just like, oh, that is not enough protein, or that is just full of processed ingredients and no good vitamins and minerals. And you might really be wanting them to take more accountability for their nutrition choices. And I hope that through some of my resources and through, great parenting, that you are encouraging them to make good choices, but they do have to come from themselves. So the parents, this is with anything, as a parent, my children are little right now, but I see it already. When you tell them what to do, they're likely not to do it. So you have to encourage and empower them with why these nutrients are important, with how it will help them with their sport, with their performance, with their energy levels, with how they're feeling, but also not criticize them for when they do make a choice to have the cookies, to have the Pop Tart, to have the bar, because at the end of the day, what they're still doing with those foods is giving themselves the calories that they need. And they're also creating independence, which are two huge things that teenagers need. They need to start making their own decisions. They need independence. They need to find their why. And they need a lot of calories. So we don't want to add any shame to choosing processed foods or high sugar foods, high carb foods, because in fact, their body probably needs it. And they also need this very important aspect of choosing their own foods. I'll add in one more statistic here for you. The mean onset age for eating disorders to develop is between 15 to 19 is the mean onset for eating disorders, including anorexia, including avoidant restrictive eating disorders, including bulimia. And there's a lot of factors that play into eating disorders, but I simply want to say this is why we don't want to shame food choices. We just want to encourage positive food choices while not shaming other food choices, because that plays a big role. Comments that are made, perceptions about good food, bad food. You'll get plenty more of content surrounding that on my channel and on my podcast. So go check them all out. Teen athletes, remember the importance of fueling enough, getting good protein in, and maximizing calcium and iron. And parents, encourage and empower your teen athlete to make food choices that strengthen, grow, develop, help them perform, while also not shaming them when they're enjoying pizza with friends and some snacks at the movies.